you're creating, whatever you're going to trade off, yes, it's going to be of, as a mediator, you need to make sure that whatever you're going to get the parties to trade off will be of value, will be of value to the person who you're trading it off, and will not be so much value to the person who is letting you go. So there has to be a balance. And that's why people have to be that's why we pay attention to active listening. That's why we pay attention to active listening when we are dealing with position, and the key traits we pay attention to as whenever we have the position and interest brought up in the practice of mediation is active listening and empathy. Active listening, because you need to listen very clearly and intuitively. For me, I call it the purest form of listening is active listening, because then even the eyes they make, even the eye contact, the nodding of the head, the quirking of the head, anything they say, even the blinking of an eye, speaks volumes to you as a mediator when you're dealing with position and interest. Because the person can be saying something he doesn't want to say. But because you have that trait as a mediator to know what is the underlying factor, you can try to put him in that through open-ended questions to know what you can get out from him or her to make that session, get to an area that will do a settlement agreement. So active listening is very good. Empathy is very good also. Because if you're not going to take the position of another and understand where that person is coming from, then you are not likely to get them to resolve their matters. You need to get to know where that person is coming from. You have to be empathetic. You need to understand the person, not only understanding, you need to be able to, feel. You need to be able to feel. And people have these different knowledges through experience. You don't need to pass through a particular thing before you say understand it. Maybe by virtue of exposure. If you understand, maybe you've been exposed to some things. If you can understand that and have that knowledge around you, you can build, with that certain knowledge, you can build expertise around resolving it. For instance, you can't say because you need to understand how prisoners are, saying you want to be in prison. And one of my team members said this, and we laughed our heads out. You can't say you want to know how prisoners feel, then you want to go to prison. No. But by virtue of what the prisoner tells you, you build expertise in understanding how they feel while they're there. So you can understand and begin to, know how to handle matters when you're dealing with somebody that has been in prison. So you know how to relate to the person. You know how to, reach out to the person, to get to the person, to make sure that if he's involved in anything that has to do with position and interest, his issues can be attended to promptly and responsibly. Like I said, we are out of town. We just came in for something. So we're not going to stay too long. And the topic is not that very broad. But what you need to know about it is position. Many people, just normal life situation is a contemporary issue. I want this. You want to be in this. Or even another instance, a landlord that says, oh, my rent must be paid now. If this man doesn't pay me, yes, I know we all need our money. It's an investment, it's a return on investment. But you can also say, oh, even if this man doesn't pay me my money now, how much longer can I give? The economy everywhere is taking a downturn. You weigh your options. If I go to court, how long will I stay in court to resolve this matter? If you have the key word, if you have a tenant that is not recalcitrant, a tenant that, prior to whatever tension that might have risen between people, pays as and when due, you can begin to say, okay, let me give room to the tenant a grace period. Because what you're doing is by doing this, you're not being lame, you're not being weak, you're not being indecisive. You're only being tactful. You're paying attention to your interest. Your interest is that house always belongs to you, will always belong to you. So eventually, whichever way, that tenant will finally vacate that place. So when people rush, some people rush and say, oh, if it doesn't pay me now, you feel as if the house is going to evaporate. It's always going to be your house. It's only for you to be tactful to know your interest and how you go about your interest. Particularly, the key word, please, don't get me wrong. The key word is if you have a very, you don't have a recalcitrant person as your tenant. Maybe because of life issues that has happened around that tenant is beginning to look as if he's obstinate or is not being compliant. You need to now begin to explore this position and interest. Particularly, you need to, take interest and take a deeper introspection to know what is really causing all these things. How do I go around all these things? Like we say, a popular Igbo musician said something, Oliver, I think it's Oliver, he said, if you plant flowers, imagine if you come to plant flowers in your landlord's house, you are planting for the landlord. So it's just a simple example. Is that is going to anything on land is his own. So it's just for you the landlord to recognize that whatever issues are happening here, eventually this place is my own. It's only a bit of discomfort. So to avoid that discomfort, you can now begin to pay attention to the interest. The interest is